Good afternoon and welcome to the inaugural AENC Podcast. This is Rich Fanoff, the CEO and Executive Director of AENC, and a very special thanks today to our new podcast production partner, Red Wolf, which is located right here in downtown Raleigh. If you have been thinking about doing podcasts for your members or your customers, but you're just not sure how to do it, or you think it's too expensive, no worries. Red Wolf and AENC can now help, and especially through the AENC partnership, AENC members can now get discounted rates in addition to production assistance. So if you would like to learn or explore more about doing podcasts, feel free to give any of the staff at AENC a call. We'd be happy to tell you more. And today, it is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for the inaugural podcast. And our guest speaker today is Joe Stewart. Joe has served as the president of the AENC board since September 1st of 2016 and is due to complete his term in August 31st of this year. Joe does have a full-time job in addition to his service at AENC. He's the executive director of the North Carolina Free Enterprise Foundation. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Rich, I am delighted to be with you on this maiden voyage of the AENC podcast.
The topic for today's conversation, the reason why we asked Joe to come in, is we would love to learn a little bit about Joe's learnings as the president of AENC. Joe, we appreciate your time today. Look forward to your insights and learning from things that you've learned over the past year. So, Joe, as outgoing president for AENC, what are a few of the things that you would say that you have learned over the past year that maybe you didn't know before you took over the presidency back last September?
Well, I certainly knew that AENC was an organization with a robust history, over 60 years of experience in helping association professionals in the management of associations here in North Carolina. But what I remembered was that we have all of this great experience, that we've done things once or twice before. Everything that we're trying to figure out how to do now, AENC has probably tried in the past. And so we should not always think that we can't figure something out, that we don't know the best way to do a thing. We have a rich history. We can look back at that. The other is, as an association of associations, it is literally a laboratory of ideas of how to run an association. Every single member, single association executive, and all of the staff involved in running associations have organic experience about what does and doesn't work in the management of an association. And we, AENC, can absolutely learn from the experiences of our members to make sure we're running the best possible trade association for the association professionals in North Carolina. It provides us this great opportunity to aggregate good ideas, to be able to share when something didn't work and why it didn't work for a particular association. And all of those are lessons that we ourselves at AENC, the board, the staff, and all the members, we can all continuously improve the quality of membership of AENC, the value proposition of participation, and the actual deliverable, which is helping the day-to-day running of an association for association professionals.
So is it fair to say that AENC then in some senses is almost like a laboratory for new ideas and learning from each other and creating best practices? Is that fair to say?
That's absolutely the case. And what AENC does so well and will continue to do so well in the future is to provide opportunities for association professionals to learn from each other through programs and events and through creative and innovative approaches to information sharing. Like this podcast series, we'll be able to provide information, insights, evaluation, actual examples of ways other professional association management types have gone at problems they faced within their own membership or within the own operation of their organization. And so all of us, all of the association members of AENC, get to learn from each other. Unlike other types of trade associations, many times when the membership are all competitors, it's very uncommon for two AENC member associations to be competing for the same membership dollars. We're all very different in who we serve and the purpose that we have behind the associations that we run. But the thing we have in common is an interest in having efficient and effective operations, really well-refined communication strategies, and putting in place board and governance structures for administrative and operational proficiency. Those are common whether your trade association represents the interests of dentists, doctors, or people that make drills. And so we can learn from each other, and AENC is that place where all of that good insight is held and made available to every AENC member.
That's a great point, Joe. And as you had mentioned, AENC's been in business now for over 60 years. And as you think through now under your presidency and in your experience with AENC, What do you think are the challenges that we face, not only at AENC, but as the association industry, so that we can be here in another 60 years from now?
Yeah, there are a couple of key things that I think every association is grappling with, and certainly AENC will have to deal with it as well with its own membership. First and foremost, in our country, in our world, we're going through a generational change. Millennials and Generation X, significantly large populational cohorts with a very different perspective on things that older generations have taken for granted in terms of the perceived value proposition of membership. This is a generation that has grown up entirely with the internet, always having a 24-hour news cycle, and the immediate access to information in a way that wasn't even imaginable for my generation, a very late baby boomer. I was born in 1963, just on the cusp of baby boomers. I remember when you had to get up off the couch and go over to the TV and turn a knob to watch one of 2 or 3 or 4, maybe, if you were lucky, channels.
Sure.
And now the average American household watches 211 different television channels in the course of a year. So a very different world, and membership will reflect that. They'll have different expectations of their association. The second is technology. The way that we communicate, the ability to aggregate large bits of data and manage it successfully, the technology applications will become a significant challenge for many associations, which are generally pretty lean operations. But sometimes technology investments, which have great return on investment, do have a high-end cost for implementation. And so in some ways, the adaptation of technology will be a big challenge for associations. The fact that AENC has taken such an innovative approach to advance things like a podcast to provide information in that way, I think that becomes significant. The final is advocacy, the need for associations to develop better and more refined efforts to make sure that their members' position on key matters of public policy are known. The politics of America and the politics of North Carolina are changing. Voter attitudes are shifting. The sense of what partisanship and ideology means is very different than it was even just a generation ago. And so for an association that has a responsibility to its members to provide them an opportunity, a forum to express their point of view on matters of public policy, I think increasingly all associations are going to have to really step up their game and figure out what they need to do to make sure that part of their membership expectation is satisfied.
That makes perfect sense. So in a dynamically changing world today, is it fair to say that the role of associations may in fact be more important in the coming years, even than it has been in the past, even though it's been very significant? I
think absolutely so. You know, our economy is changing. And so for a lot of groups where there's a professional nexus, either everyone that's a member of the association is in the same profession or they're in the same industry, or even those that provide for an opportunity for folks with a similar interest, there is increasingly a need for that level of engagement in the public policy discussion and debate. And so a trade association in some ways may ultimately come to replace what we think of political parties as providing. It will be a forum where people who agree on a set of public policy issues have an opportunity to come together, express their point of view, and work collaboratively towards a positive outcome, either fighting for or fighting against something they see directly impacting whatever it is they're interested in, whether it's their profession or a particular matter of public policy that they formed an association around. I think, too, that the sharing of information that's important within a profession or within a discipline or within a particular spectrum of people's interest in public policy, associations will become an increasingly trusted source in a world where people are concerned about fake news. The organization that you pay your dues to provide you information to is in effect a far more trustworthy source of information for you than the 211 different channels that you're now watching on TV and trying to figure out which one is putting what slant on the news. So as an organizing force and as a source of information, yes, associations increasingly become a critical element for the members that are supplying the dues to that group.
Great. So fair to say the future's bright for associations.
The future's bright, and AENC is on the right track. Rich, when you came on board as CEO, you brought the right disposition. We have a great team now. We're working to retool the way we provide information to our members, looking at an events and program schedule that makes a lot more sense in a modern context in terms of people's availability. And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see in short order an event that we used to expect success being measured in 250 attendees, it may have a studio audience of 25 people, but it's viewed by 2,000 people on the AENC network camera system that you're going to install or some other way to distribute the information. But we have so many great opportunities at AENC. You provided such great leadership. I'd say things look very bright for our future.
Super. Well, thank you, Joe. And as you're wrapping up your presidency, you've been a member of AENC for several years. You served on the board for several years. And wrapping up your term as president, if you were to point to the one thing that you say, this is the most exciting thing happening today in the world of AENC, and that I'm the most excited to leave as part of my legacy and to build on, what would that one thing be?
I have to say it's something I didn't really have much to do with, but feel like I've helped to create a far greater permanent presence around the young professionals group, what we call Fuel. This opportunity for people less tenured in the profession of association management to plug in and become mentors to an older generation of association executives, as well as the folks that are a little more seasoned being mentors to the young professionals. We've created a far more established opportunity for collaboration generationally. And I think what I'm seeing going forward with that institutionalization of it, a far greater opportunity to share ideas and information across generational lines, which I think is going to be critically important, not just to association management, but within the running of associations and understanding the needs of a younger generation of members of an association. I think what Fuel has come to represent within AENC gives me the greatest confidence that this is an organization that's going to be around for at least another 60 years.
Great. And Fuel, Joe, under your leadership has really blossomed and become an integral part of AENC. And as we look to the future, in fact, as we look to even this coming year, many members of Fuel have risen to positions on the full board leadership. So I agree. I think it's an exciting time. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we wrap up?
I think the thing to always keep in mind as we look to adapt and to put in place different programs and events, different methodologies to communicate information out to the membership of AENC, both on the association and on the affiliate side, the thing that this year has really reinforced for me is the number one value proposition of membership in AENC is the professional collegialism, the opportunity to spend time with your peers, not just other association managers, but people who are in the business of running hotel properties or business-to-business operations, the vendors and suppliers and folks that we work with in the association world. The personal connections that you get through your participation in AENC, it's probably among the most powerful and valuable aspects of AENC membership. And as we make these enhancements to embrace a new era, new technology, that will remain always the greatest value of AENC.
Super. I could not agree more. Well, Joe, thank you for your time today. I know your time is very valuable, and we appreciate you sharing some of it with us in our first podcast. And for those listening, we hope that you will join us in a few weeks on July 22nd at Winston-Salem for the annual AENC conference. And for our other listeners and members, if you would like to learn more about AENC and the Red Wolf Partnership and how we can benefit your organization, give us a call. We'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Joe, once again, thank you very much to our listeners. Hope you have a great afternoon, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Rich.